Namaskar, Pranam. I welcome all of you once again on the platform of Pavitra in this auspicious month of Purushottam. And we continue with our study, with our reflections of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Amala Purana. Extremely grateful that such wonderful speakers have been coming on this platform of Pavitra and explaining the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Amal Puran, to all of us. In the series of wonderful speakers, we have one more wonderful speaker, Pratik Desai. He's a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and he has got his master's degree in aerospace engineering from University of Florida. For some of us who do not know, this is one of the top 20 universities in US. He got connected to Gainesville Temple, where he got an opportunity to share the knowledge of Gita with the students. Later, he moved to Mumbai and got connected to ISKCON Chowpatty. He has been ardently practicing bhakti for more than 13 years now. A scholarly devotee who regularly reads and studies Srila Prabhupada's books and those by other Gauriya Vaishnavas. Pratik conducts online classes to systematically educate and guide devotees in the path of bhakti. He has delivered lectures on Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also numerous festival classes. He has the unique distinction of being among the world's top 3 Srimad Bhagavatam distributors in the last 4 years. He has been guiding many devotees from different parts of the world along with his household duties. Apart from this, he's also a successful businessman. So basically an all-rounder, an all-inclusive person leading a life to the fullest. So we are really honored to have you on this platform of Pavitra, and our whole team welcomes you, Pratik. Over to you.
Hare Krishna, are you able to see me and hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm very honored and grateful.
Prabhuji, you've got muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm very grateful, honored to be a part of this ecosystem, and especially would like to thank Her Grace Radhika Kishori Mataji and Radha Priya Mataji. I think your name is Radha Priya Mataji, right?
My name is Radharani Priya.
Okay, Radharani Priya Mataji and all the devotees who are connected to this wonderful way of connecting hearts and souls. So I'm very honored, grateful to each and every devotee. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so I would like to ask a question. We are going to overview the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I just wanted to know if the earlier speakers, they have covered something about the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, and also the different explain something about or the days of Brahma. Just a summary of that.
Prabhuji,
So
your voice is cracking. Your voice is cracking.
Okay. Are you able to hear me now clearly?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was asking about if the earlier speakers, they have mentioned something about the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Prabhuji, you can discuss it with our viewers. Thank you. Please.
Okay. Okay. So I think Radhika Kishori Mataji said they have discussed. Okay. So then it will save our time. I don't have to go into that if they have already discussed. Okay. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Kadadara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so in this first session, which is an overview of fifth and sixth canto, we will be discussing about fifth canto chapter 1 to 15. So in total there are 26 chapters, and today we will be discussing from fifth canto chapters 1 to 15. And then in the next session we'll be covering the remaining chapters of the fifth canto. And the fourth sessions will be covering about the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that also will be divided into two halves. Okay. Okay, so I think you must be aware that the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is actually considered to be the body of the Supreme Lord. It is not different from the Supreme Lord. And like the first two cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Padma Purana, it's a very important verse. It says that the first and the second cantos of the Bhagavatam are Krishna's lotus feet. The third and fourth cantos are his thighs. The fifth canto is his navel. The sixth canto is his chest. The seventh and eighth cantos are his arms. The ninth canto is his throat. The 10th canto is his beautiful lotus face. The 11th canto is his forehead. The 12th canto is his head. So this is a wonderful description given in the Padma Puran, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. I just wanted to share in brief what does the fifth and sixth canto cover. So the fifth canto corresponds to the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord. And in this canto, Sukdev Goswami continues the topic of Visarga, which is the secondary creation, and describes the dynasty of Priyavrat Maharaj, who is the other son of Manu. Priyavrat's dynasty consists of several notable personalities like Agnitra, Nabhi, Lord Rishabdev, and Bharat. In his 3 lives as a king, a deer, and a Brahmana, all these episodes culminate in the glorification of Bhakti. The latter half of this canto discusses Thanam, the positioning of various planetary systems within the structure of the universe for the inhabitation of various living entities. The canto concludes with a description of various hellish planets. The majesty and the grandeur of the Lord's creation is unfathomable for an ordinary human being. It is recommended that one faithfully adhere to the teachings of the scriptures and pursue the spiritual path. Okay, so this is about the fifth canto. About the sixth canto, we will discuss in the third session. So I would like to share the slide. The slides. Okay. Okay. I hope that you are all able to see it. So this is, we are beginning with the first chapter of the fifth canto, and it is entitled as Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. Okay, so first chapter consists of 41 verses. And so on the left side, we'll see in the blue box, these are the verses which are described, and then the further description of those verses in the corresponding brown box on the right side. So the fourth verse of the first chapter, Parikshit Maharaj is asking question about Priyavrata. I just wanted to say something really blissful about the. I just had a wonderful realization recently, while and it just struck me that the sixth canto, as described in the Padma Puran, is actually the heart of the Supreme Lord, the chest of the Supreme Lord, right? So similarly, now because the fifth canto is so close to the sixth canto, so that's why fifth canto is so important for us. as a Gaudiya Vaishnava or as a Vaishnava, we always try to worship Krishna through the mercy of Srimati. So now, because the sixth canto is the heart of Krishna, and the heart of Krishna is Radharani. So, and the fifth canto is very close to the heart of the Lord, and that's why fifth canto is actually very close to and very dear to Srimati Radharani. So, this is actually one of the glorious aspects of the fifth canto, and it is so important because the fifth canto is describing the structure of the universe, which is the aspect of the material energy of the Supreme Lord, and that material energy is ultimately also the expansion of Srimati Radharani's energy in one sense. So we are actually glorifying Srimati Radharani. Okay, so I would like to share the screen. I'm not able to see the screen.
We can see the screen, Pratik.
Okay, I'm not able to see it. I mean, I'm not able to see on Zoom. Okay, anyways, I will use the PDF file. Okay, so the coming to the first four verses, Parikshit Maharaj is asking question to Sukhdev Goswami about Priyavrat Maharaj. Now, I will be going through summary of the entire chapter, and after the end of the chapter, I will also be sharing some comments. Okay. So here, Parikshit Maharaj is asking to Sukhdev Goswami that Parikshit Maharaj could enjoy household life and still be perfect in his Krishna consciousness. Okay, because Parikshit Maharaj, because he knows that Priyavrat Maharaj is actually a pure devotee of the Lord. So how is it possible that he wants to still enjoy household life? And he also says that Mukta Sanghas, those who are liberated, they don't absorb themselves in family affairs. They are not interested because they are detached. They are completely detached and they are attached to Krishna. They are completely absorbed in Krishna's service. They are completely absorbed in thinking about Krishna. So how come Priyavrat Maharaj agreed uh, accept the household life? So then, so next verse 5 to 6, Sukha Goswami is replying to his question. He says that the obstacles that cannot obstruct one's absorption in bhakti, and Priyavrat Maharaj could neither welcome Manu's request to rule nor reject it. So what happens is, uh, Narad Muni is actually the guru of Priyavrat Maharaj, and Narad Muni is completely in favor of the decision of Priyavrat Maharaj to continue the austerities and to be detached from household activities. But later, because Priyavrat Maharaj is reluctant to accept household duties, then Brahmaji personally comes and then he is instructing Priyavrat Maharaj to accept it and also to uh, enjoy in the material world. So that's why here it is mentioned that Priyavrat could neither welcome Manu's request to rule nor reject it. In fact, Swayambhuva Manu, who is the father of Priyavrat Maharaj, he comes and he tries to convince Priyavrata, but because he's unable to accept his instructions, and after that, Brahma has to personally come down and instruct him. So basically, Brahma is actually a superior personality, and Swayambhuva Manu being the father of Priyavrat Maharaj. So obviously, that kind of relationship we sometimes take it for granted. So in order for Priyavrat Maharaj to follow the instructions, he has to follow some superior authority, and that's why Brahma had to come down. And from the verse 7 to 10, it is described about the arrival of Lord Brahma. So Brahma descends, being praised by the demigods, and then he meets Priyavrata, looking at him with compassion and smile. So it is mentioned by acharyas that the smile of Brahma, it has some internal meaning. So I will just share after that, after completing the overview of this chapter. And from 11 to 19 verses, Brahma's reasons to convince. So Brahma is actually trying to convince Priyavrat Maharaj that he should accept household duties, and then even after accepting household duties, he will not be able to uh, entangle in the material world. So from 11 to 12 verse, he's explaining that the Supreme Lord's order cannot be defied or it cannot be avoided. And then from 13 to 16, he says that the jivas are dependent on the Lord's order in accepting bodies and conducting their lives. Even liberated persons also, they accept his order. And 17 to 19, he says that a self-controlled person is unaffected by family life. Therefore, seek shelter of Lord and conquer your senses. 20 to 22, Priyavrat Maharaj is accepting the order of Lord Brahma. And so, Priyavrat, they had no resentments. And then later, Manu becomes detached. 20 to 25th verse, Priyavrat, there's description about Priyavrat marriage, descents, and wonderful activities. So the greatest activity for which he is glorified is because he divided the Bhumandala into 7 oceans and 7 islands, and then made his sons their rulers. So we'll discuss about this later in the 5th canto when we discuss about the structure of the universe. We divided the 7 oceans and 7 islands. And then from verse 36 to 41, it is described that how he considered he had become entangled in family affairs, and he does so after long period of time when he was in his household duties. At certain stage, he realized that he has kind of got entangled in the material world, and then using his intelligence and discrimination, he renounced everything and resumed the path of a devotion which is instructed by Narada. And finally, 39 to 41 words, it's in the glorification of Priyavrat Maharaj. So this is the summary of the first chapter of 5th canto. Now I have some comments which I would like to share. Yeah, so now Priyavrat Maharaj was not affected by all these things because he was a pure devotee. And why he was a pure devotee? Because he had got the mercy of Narad Muni. So he wasn't affected by this material household life. Okay. Obviously, we also know that later on Brahma also comes and then he bestows his mercy and boon. He gives his boon to Priyavrat Maharaj that may your bhakti increase even though I am the cause of interruption in your bhakti, Gyan and Vairagya. So Brahma is also bestowing mercy on Priyavrat Maharaj and is also blessing that your bhakti will continue. Whether you are in this world or whether you are liberated, your bhakti will still continue. So now it is very interesting to know that Uttanapad Maharaj's descendants, in the previous sessions you must have heard that there was a description about the descendants of Uttanapad Maharaj. And so now here we are discussing about the descendants of Priyavrat Maharaj. So Uttanapad Maharaj descendants up to Prachetas, they ruled the kingdom. But now there was no king, okay, in order to rule. That's why, and then we also know that Daksha in his second birth had gone to perform austerities. So Swayambhu Manu, seeing no alternative, wanted to bring Priyavrat Maharaj from the forest, making the king. So Priyavrat Maharaj rules the kingdom for 5 Manvantar period. And then Daksha returns and begins ruling at the beginning of 6th Manu. So the 6th Manu, so there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. I hope that all of you are familiar with this. We are currently in the 7th Manu period, which is Vaivastha Manu period. And before that, there are 6 Manus. So we are actually discussing about Swayambhu Manu's period time, which is the first Manu. Okay. And then the 6th Manu is Chakshusha Manu. So if you go through the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will not be able to understand directly. But if you thoroughly read the Bhagavatam and if you take guidance from devotees, you will actually understand how this entire pastime of right from Uttanapad Maharaj or Swayambhu Manu's period, how it is actually somehow passing to Chakshusha Manu period. Because the 6th canto, it is mentioned here, Daksha is actually in the second birth, he goes to perform austerities, right? And then later on, when the 6th Manu begins, that time Dakshani is ruling the kingdom. Okay. So 6th canto describes about Daksha's and how Daksha curses Narad Muni. And then there is also the description of Lord Narsingadev in the 7th canto, right? So we can actually understand Narsimhadev, Lord Narsimha, he appeared in the Chakshusha Manu period. He's not in the Vaivastha Manu period. He appeared in the Chakshusha Manu period, which is the 6th Manu. Okay, whereas we are in the 7th Manu period. Okay, and each Manu lives for 71 Divya Yugas. So these are like technical details. If you like me to explain these things, then you can let me know. Otherwise, I can just skip it and I can continue with the summary. Uh, okay. So now Brahma smile, it has some meaning also. So Vishwanath Thakur, he mentions that actually internally Brahma is thinking that just as you are stubborn, you means Priyavrat Maharaj. So he's trying to convince Priyavrat Maharaj, and he feels that Priyavrat Maharaj not, he's not immediately agreeing with this proposal. So after convincing him for some time, then he finally agrees. So then Brahma thinks, just as you are stubborn, I am also going to be stubborn, and I will see whose stubbornness shall prevail. So that's why Brahma is externally, smiling. So this is what acharyas like Vishwanath Thakur they share, who is a Rasik Acharya. Okay, and another important principle here is that the etiquette of following one's Param Guru is reflected here. So we see that how Narad Muni were of Priyavat Maharaj's continuation of his detachment for the material world and performing austerities. But then Brahma comes, then Brahma is convincing Priyavat Maharaj. So what is happening here? Priyavat Maharaj's guru is Narad Muni, and Narad Muni's guru is Lord Brahma. Okay, so it's an etiquette whenever one's Param Guru will appear, and if there is some contradiction or conflict of instruction between the Guru and the Param Guru, then the Param Guru's instruction should be followed. That's a etiquette, right? So here we can see that how even though Narada is actually in favor of Priyavrat Maharaj, but Brahma is not desiring like that. He is desiring something which is called Maharaj and Narad Muni, but ultimately Priyavrat Maharaj accepts it because the Lord wants it. So we see here that how Maharaj is also familiar with the etiquette of following one's Param Guru. Okay, so then Parikshit Maharaj is asking Swami, how did Priyavrat Maharaj enjoy in the household life? And so then Sukadeva Goswami says that Priyavrat Maharaj ruled for 11 Arbuda years. One Arbuda is equal to 100 million human years. Okay, so 11 Arbuda years means 25 Divya Yugas. If you calculate, one Arbuda is equal to 100 million years and multiplied by 11, then actually that comes to about 25 Divya Yugas. What is a Divya Yuga? A Divya Yuga is a Chatur Yuga, which includes Satyug, Tretayug, Dwapar, and Kalyug. So yugas together, it is called as Mahayuga or Chatur Yuga or Divya Yuga. So for 25 Divya Yugas, Priyavrat Maharaj ruled, and he did for 31 Divya Yugas. Okay, so this is some information I wanted to share. And the reason for dividing the Bhumandala into 7 oceans and islands is because he became dissatisfied with the sun lighting up only half of the earth. And that's why he followed the sun and made the other half shine. So by mystic yoga, Priyavrat Maharaj expanded into 2 forms, one king and the other sun. And he followed the sun not to compete with the sun, but to give happiness to the inhabitants of Bhumandala. The sun created by him was cooler than the moon and warmer than actual sun at dawn and dusk. Now, these impressions made by his chariot created 7 oceans and islands, as you. But there is something really interesting about this, and it connects to a pastime of Krishna in Goloka. So, if you know how Krishna was having pastimes with Viraj, Gopi, and also with Srimati Radharani, and then there was cursing and counter cursing Radharani to Sridhama and by from Sridhama to Srimati Radharani. So there was cursing and counter cursing, and at the same time, when Krishna was enjoying pastimes with Viraj, Gopi, so that time in that enjoyment, 7 sons were birth from Viraj. And because of some curse, these 7 sons, they actually appeared in the material world in the form of 7 oceans. They were cursed to become 7 oceans. So actually, we can understand how this is connected to Krishna's pastime in Goloka also. At the end, I just wanted to discuss about the significant glories of Priyavrat Maharaj. He is the one who dissipated darkness of night, excavated and marked boundaries with rivers, forests, and mountains to stop trespassing and barren nations. So we will discuss this in detail when we uh, go through the second part of 5th canto, structure of the universe. Okay, so now we continue with the second chapter. Oh well, yeah, something I just wanted to share for the first chapter. Prithviraj Maharaj got married to 2 wives. The first one was Barismati, daughter of Vishwakarma, and the second wife is not mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So Barismati gave birth to 10 sons who are equal to their father in qualities, have names of Agni, and then she also gave birth to one daughter, Ojaswati. And the second wife, she gave birth to 3 sons, Uttama, Tamasa, and Revata. Okay. So the 7 sons of Priyavrat Maharaj to Barismati were Agnidra, Idmajva, Yagnabahu, Hiranyaryata, Prishta, Medatithi, Ditihotra. And the 3 sons were Kavi, Mahavir, and Savana, were brahmacharis and entered Paramahamsa ashram. And through Ujaswati, it was Shukracharya, and then later on, Devayani. So these 3 sons by the second wife, Uttama, Tamsa, Raivat, these are the third, fourth, and fifth Manmanthas respectively, right? So this is the summary of the first chapter. Now we'll go to the second chapter. Okay, so this is about the activity of Maharaj Agnidra. So as we have already discussed that Devrat Maharaj gave birth to Agnidra, one of the 10 sons, through Barismati, right? So we will, the Bhagavatam is a lineage of Priyavrat Maharaj through Agnidra. And so the first 2 verses of the second chapter talks about the austerities and rule, Agnidra's rule that he had implemented, executed in this kingdom, and the austerities that he undergone. So the first verse talks about that how he ruled according to his father order. Then the second verse, being desirous of entering Pitra Loka, he worshipped Brahma for a son, Mount Mandara. So we will see in the structure of universe where this Mandara mountain is. In the third to fourth verse, Brahma sends Purvachiti, who wanders about in a beautiful garden. And there's verse from 5 to 6, Agnidra opens his mind. So this is from verse 3 to 6, Agnidra is attracted to Purvachiti, who is sent by Brahma. There's a description of Purvachiti here, how he's getting attracted to her. And then 7 to 16, Agnidra's strategy to attract Purvachiti. So he's asking, who are you? What are you doing here? Who will shoot with bows of your eyebrows? And Agnidra is mesmerized by her eyebrows, eyes, and other features. And then 15 to 16, join me in my austerities, I will never leave you. So he is trying to convince Purvachiti that please become my wife and I will never leave you. And then from 17 to 23, he's using his, like he's trying to attract Purvachiti. And then there's also the description of Agnidra's family life, descendants, and attainment of Pitraloka. So here how expertly charming Purvachiti, then they enjoy for thousands of years. The 9 sons grow up and then Purvachiti returns to Brahma. Their sons inherit the 9 Varshas of Jambudvipa. Always thinking of her, Agnidra joins Purvachiti on Pitraloka. The 9 sons marry the 9 daughters of Meru. Okay, so I'll just share my comments. Yeah, so now the question is that why did Agnidra desire to attain Pitraloka when he's the son of a pure devotee? So we know that even in our spiritual life, there may be many wonderful devotees or pure devotees, but it is not necessary that their lineage will also become devotees, right? And Srila Prabhupada is the best example of this. So similarly here, Agnidra desired Pitraloka, even though his father was a pure devotee, but he was born when Priyavrat Maharaj was lusty. So the Bhagavatam says that, because you want to give birth to a child, you want to give birth to a devotee child, it is very important, that we perform the Garbhadan Samskara. And for that, the consciousness at the time of conception is very important. So here, because Priyavrat Maharaj was lusty at the time of conception, that's why uh, he had some material desires. And so he desired to attain Pitraloka. And Agnidra had 9 sons. The name of these sons are Nabi. First one is Nabi, then Purusha, Harivarsha, Ilavrata, Ramyaka, Hiranmai, Bhadrashva, and Kitmal. So these 9 sons, they also refer to the 9 Varshas of the Bhumandala, or of Jambudvipa, which is in the structure of the universe. Okay, so chapter. So it's about the appearance of Lord Rishabdev in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi. Okay, so text number 1 to 3 talks about Lord Vishnu's appearance in King Nabi's sacrifice. So desiring sons, Nabi and Meru Devi worship Lord Vishnu. So now Nabi is one of the sons of Agnidra, right? So they both worship Lord Vishnu. Then verse 2 to 3, how the Lord appears in his beautiful form. And then 15 verses describe is actually the prayers offered by the sages in prose language. Okay, so they are offering prayers and they are glorifying the Lord. They are saying obeisances to you who are transcendental, and they also describe the Lord who eradicates sins. Reached by simple means, do not need elaborate worship, sacrifice. We do that for our material benefit, benedictions. You mercifully appear fools, not only for our benefit. Your action is very rare. Please let us remember you during the time of at the time of death. Nabi is foolish. He's asking you for something meager. He's not worshipped the devotees. Please excuse us for calling you here for material things. So these are the prayers offered by the sages who are helping Nabi in order to perform the sacrifice. And then from 6 to 20 talks about the Lord's benediction to King Nabi. So the Lord was pleased and said, I will appear as Nabi's son, proving the words of you Ramanas true. Then ultimately Rishabdev appears, who is the Supreme Lord, not different from the Supreme Lord. Okay. So so Nabi worshipped the Supreme Lord with purity and devotion, but didn't associate with devotees. That's why material benediction from the Lord. So now why it is material benediction? He's asking for a son who is similar to the Lord. He's not asking the Lord to become his son, but he's asking the Lord to send a son who is similar to him, right? So that's why it is a material desire. But still the Lord is so merciful that he ultimately appears in the form of Lord Rishabdev. Okay. And then after glorifying the Supreme Lord, the sages repent their intention and mood because they are asking for the Lord. Okay, so this with this we are done with the 3rd chapter. We'll talk about the characteristics of Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the text number 1 to 3 describes about the qualities of Lord Rishabdev. Rishabdev exhibits all the qualities of Supreme. That's why his father named him Rishab, someone who is very great. The ministers wanted him to rule the kingdom. And then obviously, as we know, that how Indra becomes envious of those who are progressing spiritually and materially. And then he will create some obstacles. So he became envious and then he stopped the rain. Okay. From 4 to 7, description about Nabi's Vatsalya Ras and perfection. So in this, Nabi raises his son with transcendental affection, being popular and able to protect the citizens. Rishabh is enthroned. Glories of Nabi, the father of the Lord and a worshipper of Brahmanas, he attains Vaikuntha. And then 8 to 19 describes about the exemplary character of Rishabh Dev and his sons. So Lord Rishabh Dev, perfect brahmachari and grihastha life. Uh, then 9 to 13 describes the sons of Lord Rishabh Dev. 14 to 15 describes Rishabh Dev's qualities and activities, followed by common man. 16 to 18 describes how he followed the instructions of Brahmanas, although expert himself. He performed worship through sacrifices, and his citizens were always satisfied. And finally, at Brahmavarta, he instructed his sons. Okay. Uh, so here, because Indra stopped rains, Rishabdev showers rain upon Ajanav Varsha, which is later to be known as Bharat Varsha. So Rishabdev, being the supreme lord, he can do anything, and he started raining. Okay, so that's how Indra was defeated. And Nabi and Mary later they went to Badrika Ashram, and they worshipped Nar Narayan Rishi, and they finally attained Vaikuntha. And then Rishabdev married Jayanti and begot 100 sons. And he also ruled the kingdom through the tenets of Varnashram Dharma and set an example for all to follow. So, summary of the fourth chapter. So now I just wanted to share that the description of the 100 sons of Rishabdev. So out of those 100, 10 were Kshatriyas. Bharata was the eldest and great exalted devotee with best qualities. And in his honor, this planet is also known as Bharatvarsha. Uh, yeah, so the 9 Kshatriyas names are mentioned here. Then there were 9 Mahabhagavats or Navyogendras, which will be described in the 11th canto later. So their names are also mentioned: Kavi, Havi, Antariksha, Prabuddha, Pipalayana, Abhirhotra, Rumila, Chamas. Very exalted advanced Vaishnavas, authorized speeches of Bhagavatam, and glorified for their strong devotion to Vasudev. These are described in the 11th canto, 1 to 5 chapters. And then 81 perfectly qualified Brahmanas. So these were well cultured, well behaved, very pure in their activities, expert in Vedic knowledge and rituals. Okay, the 5th chapter. Rishabdev's teaching to his. Okay, so in the 1 to 3, about the importance of human life, how human life is actually meant for Brahma Sokyam, which is possible by Mahat Seva. And then 4 to 6 describes about the how we can end the transmigration of the karma. So the result of sensibility and karma, actual transmigration. So inquire about Atma Tattva. Only Bhakti can give liberation. 7 to 9 talks about cutting to the knots of illusion. Sense gratification is useless. Male-female attraction creates a double knot. Slackening the knot of karma leads to liberation. Then 14, 25 processes to attain liberation. So he's instructing his sons that if you follow these processes, but ultimately you have to finally give them up and retain bhakti. 18 describes about the obligations of a leader. If one cannot deliver his dependents from birth and death, one shouldn't take on the position of a superior. The Lord and his devotee in one family. Lord Rishabdev is transcendental. Serving his eldest son Bharata includes serving him also. 27, the glories of the Brahmanas. The Lord eats through the mouths of the Brahmanas, who are superior to all living entities and who have no material aspirations. And how we should have respect for all living entities and engage in bhakti. And then finally, 28 to 35, Lord Rishabdev's renunciation as an Avdut. So he enthrones Bharata, leaves home, accepts Avdut life, a Jagar Vitri he adopts, and the behavior of cows and deer and crows. He did not do these, although they were available to him. So while he's instructing his sons Rishabdev is also talking about how one should follow, how one should serve two types of Mahatmas or the two types of Mahat Seva. Describes about there are two types and one is personal, one is impersonal. And then finally it is mentioned that how devotees are superior and they have unique qualities. Then he also says that even pious activities leads to suffering and samsara, but by knowledge destroy all the karmas. Then he also provides knowledge on how to get rid of karmas, destroy ahankara and attachment. So now his son, they may ask a question to him that who is the Lord to be worshipped and who is the devotee. Rishabdev answers that I am that Lord, and that Mahat is your eldest brother Rishabdev. By serving him, you will serve me. So just as we have a philosophy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy or any Vaishnava philosophy, that if you want to please Krishna, then you have to serve the devotees or you have to devotees. So similarly, if you want to please Rishabdev, then you have to please Bharata. This is the instruction that he gave to his sons. So later on, he enters Bharata, lives in home like a madman, naked. Then he takes the sacrificial fire within and leaves home to the world. He acts like an Uddhata, dumb, blind, dull, mad, ghostly, and takes a vow of silence. He tolerates all the insults while he wanders around in towns, villages, forests, people. They spit upon him, pass stool on him, urine on him, and in spite of all these insults, uh, Rishabdev is very tolerant. They throw stones on him, dust and foul air also, but in spite of all these things, he's liberated. So he's not bothered about these things. So now, in spite of all these uh, inconveniences and so many things that he tolerated, he had a very charming and beautiful personality, which is quite surprising. One is you know if you throw stones at someone and if you try to uh, if you make a person if you try to like person angry or you insult the person, what happens is the person actually becomes angry and he loses all his good qualities. But instead of that, because of his tolerance, he was very charming and beautiful. He also adapted this Ashkavritti when people became antagonistic to his execution of mystic yoga, the behavior of Python. He slept, ate, passed urine stool at one place, rolled on it so others wouldn't disturb him. And was the consequence of this aromatic stool and urine spreading 80 miles in the countryside with pleasing fragrance. That was actually the effect of his rolling down stool and urine. Okay, so we can see that that's how Rishabdev is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because even his stool and urine is so fragrant, it is so pleasing. Okay, whereas in the material world, when we are doing the same activity, it will stink, right? So this is the glory of Lord Rishabdev. So now we proceed to chapter 6. Okay, now some very important lessons to be learned because Rishabdev is mentioning about how a person should not become a leader, should not become a guru. And if someone does not represent God, then one can reject that person who is acting as a guru or a leader. So there are some examples from Shastra which signify this principle. So we have Bali Maharaj and his guru was Shukracharya. Maharaj rejected Shukracharya because he was not allowing him to surrender. And then we have example of Vibhishan, who also considered Ravana. Now, because he was a relative, in one sense, he was also the elder brother of Vibhishan. So he was kind of guru to him. And that's how he rejected Ravana also, because he also objected to him to surrender to the Lord. And then we have the example of Prahlad Maharaj, how he rejected his father, Hiranyakashipu. Then Bharat Maharaj, this is King Bharat, the brother of Lord Ramchandra, how he rejected Kaikeyi. his own mother. And Maharaj Khatwanga rejects Indra, is a worshipper deity. And then we have the wives of the Brahmanas from the Krishna Leela, how they rejected their husbands because they were also trying to surrender to Krishna. Okay, sixth chapter. Activities of Lord Rishabdev. 1 to 5 talks about the nature of the mind. So Parikshit asks why Rishabdev neglected mystic powers, and then uh, it's also mentioned that why one should neglect the mind, because it is restless, cheating, it can cheat at any moment, and it is like an unchaste wife and the root cause of all the six enemies. And then 6 to 8 describes about the Lord's disappearance to teach the yogis how to give up body. Lord Rishabdev acted like a avduta. His body was burnt in a forest. 9 to 12 describes about how uh, there was a false religion which was created because a king called Arath wanted to imitate Lord Rishabdev. So the followers of Arath's concocted system will abandon dharma and they will fall down. So this is very interesting. Prabhupada says that King Arath, because he tried to imitate Lord Rishabdev and got deviated from the process, and that's how it was the origin of Jain Dharma. So Jain Dharma actually started from the teachings of Lord Rishabdev. Okay, but it was King Arath who actually started this because it deviated from the original teachings of Lord Rishabdev. So we'll discuss about that later. And then the land of Bharatvarsha is most pious. Sorry, 13 to 19 talks about the glorification of Rishabdev activities. Talks about how land of Bharatvarsha is most pious. The dynasty of Priyavrat is pure and famous. And then, which yogi can compare it with Lord Rishabdev? Hearing his activities vanquishes sin, creates auspiciousness, and invokes bhakti. Devotees do not accept mukti, bhakti's liberation, obeisances to Lord Rishabdev. So, mind of a paramour, okay, a paramour of an unchaste wife who can kill her husband, and that is why the mind cannot be trusted. Which are here, there is a reference of the six enemies, but these are the six sons of Marichi. If you remember, these are the manifestation of the mind or the expansion of the mind. And so we know that lust, anger, envy, greed, pride, illusion, these are ultimately, they are kind of coming from the mind. The root cause is the mind, right? So Marichi gave birth to six sons, and these six sons were uh, the six sons of Devki before Balram's and Krishna's appearance. So they were the manifestation of lust, envy, anger, greed, pride, illusion. And Kamsa, because Kalanemi, in the previous life his name was Kalanemi, which means the wheel of time. So we know that the wheel of time destroys everything, and that's how Kamsa actually destroys these six sons. Now, obviously, there was a story behind that, how these six sons, they had received curse from Hiranyakashipu that they will be killed by their own father. So, so Kamsa was that father who was in the previous life, who was known as Kalnemi, and and Kalnemi actually came and he killed his own sons. So this lust, envy, anger, greed, pride, and illusion, these are the six sons of Devki, which were killed by Kamsa. Okay, basically they represent the anarthas, and it is very wonderfully described in the appearance of Lord Krishna's pastime, that if you want to make Krishna appear in the heart of a devotee, or if the devotee wants to make Krishna appear in his heart, then one has to get rid of all these anarthas. And in order to get rid of these anarthas, we require the help of Guru. Okay, so without the help of Guru, you cannot actually attain Krishna. And that's why Balram appeared as a Guru, and he cleared up all these things. So he wanted to make a platform for Krishna to actually appear. He wanted to purify the entire atmosphere so that Krishna can appear in that pure atmosphere. Okay, that's why Balram has to come before Krishna comes. So Guru appears Guru gives Krishna, and Guru also purifies our heart so that we can, so that the Lord. Okay, so this is the significance of these six sons. or the 6 enemies. Okay, so now Rishabdev passed through kingdoms of Onka, Venka, and Kutaka near the forest of Kutakachala. So then later on, uh, Rishabdev, apparently it seems that he was burned in forest fire due to rubbing of bamboos by force of, but actually he burned the subtle bodies of trees and animals, and they all attained liberation. So now we know that the stool and urine of Rishabdev was so pure, it was so fragrant. So how is it possible that Rishabdev can die in a forest fire? It is not possible because he's the Supreme Lord, right? So the intention of Rishabdev was to bewilder the atheistic people, and at the same time also bestow liberation to all these animals and trees. Okay, so that's how ultimately Rishabdev bestowed mercy on trees and animals. Now, we have already discussed about the provinces, Konka, Vinka, and Kotaka. So Arat was actually the king of these 3 provinces, and being bewildered in Kali Yuga by the activities of Lord Rishabdev, he got deviated and he concocted a new system of religion, which is Jain. And then Jain Dharma does not accept the Vedas. Okay. So now after the end of this narration, Sukhdev Goswami is also somehow, this is not like to the theme that we are discussing. Sukhdev Goswami suddenly talks about the glorious position of the Pandavas with respect to Krishna, the intimate relationship between Pandavas and Krishna. Okay, and does that is because till now Sukhdev Goswami also has already described about the Lord's appearance in Priyavrata's dynasty as Rishabdev, Tanapat dynasty as Kapila, and then Prithu also, Maharaj Prithu also, and then later on he will also describe about Lord Ramchandra in Raghu and Krishna in Yadu dynasty. So thinking that Parikshit would feel he didn't appear in Kuru dynasty, the Lord didn't appear in Kuru dynasty, and he would feel sad about it. So in order to encourage Parikshit Maharaj, Sukhdev is reminding Parikshit Maharaj about the most exalted connection of Pandavas with Krishna and how bhakti is superior to liberation. So that that's the connection. So because of his ecstasy, Sukhdev Goswami is sometimes mixing up, going chronologically or sequentially. Sometimes he's also diverting from the theme. So here is Parikshit Maharaj of his glorious connection with Krishna, especially the Pandavas. Okay, so now we'll continue with the 7th chapter. Talks about the activities of King Bharata. Okay, so the 1 to 7 verses talks about King's Bharata rules and sacrifices, his marriage, progeny, and perfect rule over Bharatvarsha. He performs sacrifices in the consciousness of offering everything to Lord Vasudev. And then 14, Bharata's retirement and austerities at Pulashram. After ruling for 10 million years, he retired to Pulashram, where the Gandaki river flows. Shaligram Shilas are available and Lord Hari is visible. He worshipped Lord Narayan there and attained the symptoms of perfection. Okay, so Bharatvarsha, that land that we are residing is known as Bharatvarsha, but formerly it was Ajanab Varsha, and after Bharat's appearance, it became known as Bharatvarsha. Now, Bharata had 5 sons from Panchajani, his wife. So these sons were named as Sumati, Rashtrabrit, Sudarshan, Avaran, and Dhumraketu. So now, question is that why he performed sacrifices since he was already liberated. Okay, and the answer is that he considered all the oblations as an offering to Lord Vishnu, to different demigods as limbs of Vasudev. He wasn't the performer and engaged priest, nor the enjoyer. His bhakti was pure as he was constantly engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. And because of this, ultimately attained the stage of Bhav, and as a result, ecstatic symptoms were manifested. He felt was an obstacle to his worship of the Lord. So he again started worshipping the Lord. Okay, so we'll proceed with the 8th chapter. Description of the character of Bharat Maharaj. So 1 to 7 verses, how Bharata brings an infant deer to his ashram. So Bharat sees thirsty doe having a miscarriage on the bank of the Gandaki. He compassionately rescues the baby deer. From 8 to 15, he neglects his sadhana to misplaced compassion, how he gets attached to the deer. His attachment, affection, attraction for the deer grows and gets distracted from his worship. And he gets agitated, anxious, and laments when he doesn't see the deer. From 16 to 25, describes about Bharata's lamentation in the separation from the deer. So I'm negligent, but shall I see it again? It hasn't returned yet. So he's like hankering after the deer, and he's getting more and more attached to the deer. From 20 to 25, in illusion, Bharata praises deer as a prince or a submissive son of a saint, whose footprints are very glorious. His separation resembled a forest fire. 26 to 27, due to absorption in the deer at the time of death, Bharata attained a deer body by the Lord's will to increase intensity in his bhakti. We'll discuss this. And from 28 to 31 talks about as a deer, Bharata lamented for his mistake and became very careful. Finally, he gave up that body. Yeah, so now interesting comments by different acharyas. So our Srila Prabhupada, he mentions in the commentary to this particular chapter, he says that because of intentional desire of Bharata, he was rectified by the Lord, or he was punished by the Lord. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that actually Bharat Maharaj, he desired to attain a special type of prema for the Lord. And because of that, in order to increase the intensity of his prema, the Lord arranged all these things. So it was not the mission, but it was the arrangement of the Lord in order to reciprocate with the desire of Bharat Maharaj's intense hankering for prema. And then Jeev Goswami is kind of reversing the entire thing, and he's saying that actually Bharat Maharaj had a previous offense or aparadh committed of his lifetime. And because of the consequence of the aparadh, he had to fall down, even though he was at the stage of bhava. Okay, but Srila Prabhupada supports, he quotes Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comment in his purport, and he says that actually the Lord wanted to reciprocate with his hankering of prema. In order to increase the intensity of his prema, the Lord arranged this. Now it's also mentioned that he did not associate of devotees, that's why he had fallen down. And he also had attained a lower stage of bhava, which is below Swarup Siddhi. So if you attain the stage of Swarup Siddhi, then you are very safe. There is no risk. But below that, there is still a risk of falling down. And especially from previous aparadhs, one can still fall down from the state of bhava. One particular mercy the Lord bestowed upon him is that this is a unique mercy from the Lord, bestow this to anyone, that he, in the body of deer, he could actually remember his past life. So he greatly lamented and left his mother deer and then went back to Pula Ashram and gave up that body also. So now we'll look at chapter 9. Okay, do we have enough time, Mataji? Another 15 minutes or 20 minutes?
Sure, Prabhuji. Sure, please.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so many chapters, so much content to cover. So, okay, so the chapter is about the discussion between Chad Bharat and Marat Raghugan. 1 to 8 discusses about Raghugan, how Raghugan offends Chad Bharat. So Chad Bharat was forced to carry Raghugan's pellet to the ants. He moved erratically. Bearers told Raghugan that it was Jad Bharat causing the problem. Raghugan's sarcastic and old. Raghugan harsh words. Are you dead or bad? I am your master and I will punish you. to 50, Bharata replies to Raugan. He says, I am a soul detached from the body. Bodily designations don't apply to the soul. Material possessions like that of a master and servant are only conventional. There's no gain in punishing a self-realized man or madman. Bharata continued to explain. Finally, Raugan pays respect and begs forgiveness from him. Raugana's humble submission. So he says, who are you? I am afraid of offending the Brahmanas. Please explain your words. What is the most secure shelter in the world? Why are you wandering in disguise? Then 20, Raghunatha's inquiries to Jat Bharat reply. So he says that although the soul is different from the body, it appears fatigued. Just like the milk in a pot becomes hot because of fire. It's a king's duty to punish wrongdoers. Otherwise, my offense, out of false prestige, will destroy me. Okay. Ultimately, in the third lifetime, Bharat Maharaj took birth as Jad Bharat. So he was a Brahmana by birth, and he took birth as a Brahmana in the line of Angira Muni. That Brahmana had two wives. From the first wife, he had 9 sons, and from the second wife, he had twins. One was male, another was female. So one of the twin was Jad Bharat. Okay, so I will. So this is a nice presentation of the questioning of Rahugana to Jad Bharat and then his response, and again questioning of Rahugana to the response of Jad Bharata. Okay. So he mentioned that you appeared fatigued by carrying palanquin, and then Jad Bharata replies that I am a spirit soul, I am completely detached from the body. So the load carried by body and resulting fatigue does not belong to me. And Rahugana is questioning Jad Bharat that the soul appears fatigued due to bodily labor, like milk and rice in a pot. And then the fourth one, he says, do you know that I am your master? This master servant differentiation is temporary and just conventional. And then Rahugana is further inquiring. He says, but it is a king's duty to rule and punish disobedient citizens. And Jad Bharat, so he mentions this in 10th chapter, 23rd verse. And then Jad Bharat refutes this in 5th chapter, the 12th chapter and 7th verse. And then finally says, you are mad, for this disobedience I shall punish you. I am self-realized. Even if I am mad, the punishment is of no use. Engaging one's occupational duty vanquishes sin. So now there is also further response to Rahugana's inquiries by Jad Bharata. Okay, so Jad Bharata's instruct King Rahugan, 11th chapter. 1 to 3. Materially observed people cannot understand Tattva. Wise don't speak of material subjects. Even Vedvadis generally they don't discuss Tattva. The Vedas are insufficient for understanding the absolute truth. 4 to 8. The mind is cause of entanglement. The mind expands activities through the senses. Characteristics of the mind is described, and the mind causes bondage and also liberation. 9 to 11 explains the functions of the mind. 12 to 14 about liberated soul is the Supreme Lord. It talks about the description of the characteristics of the Supreme Lord. And then 15 to 17 of the conditioned souls from illusion. So how the jiva wanders in the samsara until it comes to the platform of self-realization, and then how the mind is is the cause of all tribulations. Conquer it by neglect, attentiveness, and service to Guru and Krishna. Okay. This is the response of Jad Bharat to King Rahugan. Question that were asked in chapter 10th. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, I think I missed the comments to the 10th chapter. Okay. So Jad Bharata is bestowing his mercy to 3 types of people in the 3 modes of material nature: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So he's bestowing to three categories of people: those who are in the mode of goodness, or in other words, his relatives. He's bestowing his mercy by allowing them to see his form. He's bestowing his mercy to the ignorant, to the leader of the dacoits by liberating him, uh, and that we'll also discuss later. And then, the leader of the dacoit was actually very fortunate to see Jad Bharat directly, as well as Durga. That's why he got liberated. And then, in the mode of goodness, King Rahugana by teaching Bhakti and Gyan. So King Rahugana was the king of Sindhu and Sovira province, was once traveling to Kapila Ashram, and his palanquin carriers needed an extra barrier. So the king himself very learned. That's why Jair Bharat wanted to destroy his ignorance and bestow his mercy by defeating him. So Rahugana had Sukriti and faith in the topics of the absolute truth, and was therefore qualified to hear the philosophy. So it is very important to know that uh, it's not that the speaker has to have qualification, but even the listener, you also has to have some kind of qualification in order to fully realize the subject matter in spiritual life. So we've already covered the 11th chapter. Yeah, now another comment from the 11th chapter is: example of pot heated by fire is not related to Atma. Uh, since Atma is not in contact with matter, whereas the pot, which is gross body, is actually contacting matter. So the Atma is not fatigued in its true sense. Only conditioned Jiva experiences this. Okay, so it is not connected to the Atma, or it is not applicable to the realized souls. This was Bharat's argument to King Rahugana. Okay, so going forward to chapter 12. Conversation between Maharaj Rahugana and Jad Bharata. 1 to 4, Rahugana thanks Jad Bharat and inquires further. I offer my respects unto you. My vision is changed with pride, but your words are like cooling waters, nectars, or medicine. Please simplify instructions so I can understand. Jad Bharata is establishing the falsity of the material world. Everything is transformation of earth, but in illusion you are thinking yourself a king. Your rule is religious. Earth of all bodies is made of atoms which are also impermanent. Material nature has created everything in this universe. 11 to 13, Lord qualities is abode and bhakti are the absolute truth. Non-dual knowledge is Lord Vasudeva. One can realize the Lord in the dust of pure devotees. The mind becomes fixed on the Lord by hearing in devotee association. And then 14 to 16, Jad Bharata is revealing his history. So in the previous we was King Bharata and the deer, and the power of devotee association and Krishna Katha. Okay. Yeah, so Jad Bharata is responding that a man is not fatigued in carrying ornaments of young girl, nor are parents fatigued in carrying young girl. So happiness and distress are based on one's identity. Rahugana thought that he was dharmic, but Bharata corrected him by saying that he was adharmic since he engaged people in lifting palanquin without paying uh, people who are suffering. Then ultimately Rahugana asked, what is your identity? Uh, and you are so merciful to give knowledge to a great offender like me. And that's why Jad Bharata is revealing his previous life. Okay, so now we have chapter 13 and 14. Between King Rahugana and Jad Bharat. And 14th chapter is the material world as a great forest of enjoyment. So basically, there is a allegorical story by Jad Bharat and its explanation given by Sukdev Goswami. So from 13th chapter 1 to 19 verses, there is an allegorical story. And then in the 14th chapter from 1 to 41, there is a response, or Sukdev Goswami is answering about the allegorical story because it seems to be complicated. So Sukdev Goswami is responding to it. And then text 20 to 26 of 13th chapter describes about Jad Bharat concludes is Rahugan expresses his gratitude. And 14th verse, 14th chapter 42 to 46, sages glorify Jad Bharata. So after the allegory, Jad Bharata advises Rahugan to give up his bodily identification and attain knowledge leading to devotion, and that's how he will attain liberation. That's the only way. And then Raghugana expresses that by your movement association, it has destroyed by ignorance. And then there is a description of the glories of Jad Bharata, how he renounced kingdom and returns merciful, and how he was so merciful, and then how he rejected liberation. So this is actually a title which depicts the allegory of the merchant as by Jad Bharata to Rahugan. And then the explanation of allegory is from Sukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So I'm just 41 verses, 1 to 41 verses explaining that. I'm just providing a sample of that. Okay, I'm not sharing the entire thing. So, like for example, when he talks about a merchant enters a forest to acquire goods in order to sell them later for profit, but he cannot find happiness. So, what is the meaning of this allegory? The conditioned soul enters this material world for happiness. There he becomes conditioned by Maya and suffers in different types of bodies. Remains baffled in search for relief, struggles for existence without shelter of pure devotees. Six plunderers plunder the misguided merchant. One may earn some money for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, but the uncontrolled senses oblige him to spend it for sense gratification. So this is we know that the senses are also six senses. So they can actually bewilder someone who is also Krishna conscious. Plundering the inattentive merchant. So the meaning is the family members of a miserly man take away all his wealth, he tries to guard it. And there are dense bowers composed of thickets of bushes, grass, and creepers. The Grihastha ashram is a field of fruitive activity unless the desire to enjoy family life is completely burned up. It returns again and again like weed among crops. So like that, there are many allegories, and there is a so we'll not go through all of that. If devotees they need references, then definitely I can share it later. Okay, so coming to the last chapter, 15th chapter, the glories of descendants of Priyavrat Maharaj. So now we can see how this is the descendant of Maharaj, right from Bharata, and this descendants in this flowchart. Priyavrat here at the top, and then he had two wives, Barismati and second wife. And then from Barismati, Agnidra, we discussed about Agnidra. From Agnidra, we had Nabhi, we also discussed about him, and then Rishabdev, and how Lord Rishabdev had 100 sons. And then further, there is a description of the dynasty of Bharat Maharaj. So from Bharata, Sumati was born, and from Sumati, Devataji was born. From like it goes all the way to Maharaj Gaya. So there are some wonderful Maharaj Gaya, and then finally it goes all the way to Viraj. So there is some description in Srimad Bhagavatam about Maharaj Gaya and Maharaj Viraj. So I just wanted to share a brief summary of that. Yeah. Yeah, so Sumati, son of Maharaj Bharat, fall the part of Rishabdev. And then this is the lineage that is described. And how after that, Pratiha is the one who actually propagates the principles of self-realization. And then ultimately it reaches the dynasty of Maharaj Gaya. this Maharaj Gaya qualities, most exalted among the saintly royal order, famous as a very pious king, expansion of Lord Vishnu who appeared for protecting the universe, fully equipped with transcendental knowledge. And then ideal rule by Maharaj Gaya, full protection and security to citizens, arranging sufficient food, distributing gifts to citizens, conducting meetings, satisfying the citizens, giving them good instruction, first class citizens, performing sacrifices as recommended in the Vedas. And then how Gaya Maharaj also as an unalloyed pure devotee of the Lord. Fully surrendered to Supreme Lord Brahman, filled with love the yoga, achieved by service to devotees, free from bodily conception. He realized Brahman was, but was not proud at all. And then Purana also glorify King Gaya with the following verses. How he used to perform all kinds of Vedic rituals, respected as protector of Dharma, possessor of all kinds of opulence, leader among gentlemen, servant of devotees. And how Gaya receives blessings from all senior personalities. How he receives blessings from Daksha's daughter, from Vedas, Kshatriyas, Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Sudras, Indra, Lord Vishnu. So the description given by all these great personalities offering benedictions, blessings to Maharaj Gaya. Okay, so with this we are done with the first 15 chapters, the summary of the fifth canto, and just to reminisce everything that we discussed till now, the last flow chart. So in the first chapter, it was about Maharaj Priyavrata, how all things renounced their life at the request of Brahma and divided Bhumandala into 7 oceans and 7 islands, making his son rulers. He retired later. Agnidra in the second chapter. The first son of Priyavrat ruled Jambudvipa. He married Purvachitti and begot 9 sons, who became the rulers of 9 Varshas of Jambudvipa. And then Lord's incarnation, who exhibited exemplary character and begot 100 sons, whom he instructed on various spiritual subjects. Later adopted Ajgar Vritti, wandered like an Avduta, and said that. In Maharaj Bharata, 7 to 8 chapters, the first son of Lord Rishabh, who ruled Bharat Varsha, he worshipped the Lord through sacrifices and eventually retired. He at Pula Ashram but became attached to a deer and became a deer in his next life. And then 14 chapters, 9 to 14 chapters, after giving up the deer's body, Bharata was born as Brahmana and behaved just like a dull person. One goddess Kali saved him from some dacoits who tried to sacrifice him to her. Another time he was engaged to carry the palanquin of King Raghugan and gave him teachings on the mind, material entanglement, liberation, falsity of the material world, the Lord's qualities, and the process of bhakti. He presented an allegorical story on the forest of material enjoyment, which was later explained by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. And then ultimately the 15th chapter is about the dynasty of Maharaj Priyavrata, concluding at the birth of Viraj. Okay, so with this we end our on the overview of the 5th canto of the first 15 chapters. And next time we can continue from 16th chapter, which is about the structure of universe. Okay, so okay, devotees, they have any comments or questions?
At the moment, Prabhuji, there are no questions. Yeah,
Okay.
This was very nicely explained. Thank you very much. We are extremely grateful to you. And thank you. So we'll see you
Thank you
next
so
week.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji, for the invitation.